Happy 4th of July, everybody. And yeah, America is worth celebrating. And baseball can become a huge part in moving us towards a, well, more healed time.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever they call it these days. And on Instagram, I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTube page. Post a comment. I will read it. I even read the nasty ones. I don't read them all on the air, but there you go. I get some nasty comments from time to time. Not everyone likes everything I say. Not everyone agrees with everything I say. I don't agree with everything I say sometimes. You know, sometimes I say stuff like, oh, well, I don't believe that anymore. But there you go. It's the 4th of July, and I hope you're having a good 4th of July. I hope everyone's having a good 4th of July, and even if you are not feeling particularly patriotic, this is the 4th day of July, and I hope you're having a good day. Now, I know I have some people who are fans of the show, who watch the show, who are not residents of the United States, so maybe this isn't a show that's being directed towards you, but I'm all for unifying everybody. And that's something I think baseball has a role in the way our country has been unfolding these last bunch of years. Let's face it, this has been a pretty crappy decade. And it seems like everybody's angry. And it doesn't even matter what political stance you have. It doesn't even matter where you stand on social issues, on economic issues, on racial issues, on sexual issues. No matter where you stand, the one thing that seems to have us all united is everyone's a little angry these days. Even the people who are winning look angry. There are angry billionaires out there. I mean, that to me is like, you won. What are you angry about? But no matter what, this is a country that is right now has some fractures, has some major divisions, has some things that, you know, both sides of many issues feel they're 100% right, and the other side is not just wrong on the issue, but wrong as human beings. And there is so much anger and vitriol that we need to do something about it. We need to do something. And this is not a call for one political party or another. I have very definite political views, but that's not what this show's about. In fact, that's not even what this podcast is about, in general, or this episode. We need some things that we can agree on. We need to have, I'm not saying we're going to smooth everything over, but we need a few life rafts. We need a few things, just a tiny tile that we can both cling to and say, I don't agree with you, but we agree on this. The only way we're ever going to get to a society where we can live together and not agree on everything, I don't want to agree on everything, but we can at least get along and look at the other person not as an enemy, but as something that someone will go like, well, I don't agree with them on that, but they're a good person. Or I don't agree with them on this, but we have this in common. We need to find the things that are in common. And we are so fractured and we are so dispersed that those are becoming fewer and fewer in their numbers and harder to find. We need the tiny life rafts of, I don't like what you think, I don't like what you think, you're a bad person, but we agree on this. That's something baseball could do. That's one of the great things sports can do. I've made the point. The reason why college football should not have a real playoff system is that throughout the holidays, you have to have a bowl game on every single day. Not to determine who the best college football team is, but when you're together with family and there are things that are going to cause arguments and debates, someone could say, can you just put the football game on? We can watch the football game. And you can all get together and watch that. That's the purpose of the bowls. The purpose of baseball is to have a game on between March and basically the end of October and into November. Every single day, there's a baseball game on. And whether you are liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, fiercely religious, staunchly atheist, you disagree on sexual identities, you disagree on gender issues, you disagree on politics, you disagree on bills being passed and politicians and protests and police and this, that. You could disagree on everything. But you can say, hey, let's watch a ball game together. We have that in common. And maybe that's the first building block. There are people who are hosts of the Locked On Podcast Network who I disagree with vehemently on all sorts of political issues, and I gladly have them as hosts, as guest hosts on the show, and we've appeared on each other's shows. Do you know why? Because we have the thing in common for baseball. I have relatives that I don't agree with on political things, and yet we talk baseball all the time. And I guarantee you, I'm going to go into a game up at Oracle Park in San Francisco soon. I've been to a game at Oracle Park and Sutter Health Park to see the A's, and at Dodger Stadium to see the Dodgers this year. And I could be sitting alongside people I don't agree with on anything, and yet we're enjoying something together. And that's step one. Because this is not sustainable. This is not sustainable. Being in a situation where it's not just you have to disagree with someone, you have to make them your enemy. That's not sustainable, no matter where you stand on any spectrum. And we have to find these things that we could agree on. Just the simplest things. I like baseball. You like baseball. Well, you can't be that. Then you can't be that bad. At least we start there. Maybe that's a building block. Maybe you build out from that, and you build paths. And you see, do you know what? There are pathways to agreements that keep going out, and then you find out where the disconnect is, and say, that's where we disagree. But we're now building it on points of, well, we're together up until this point. And then you humanize the person you disagree with. Then that person's not your enemy. Then that person is not someone who you hate, but rather it's someone that you say, we have a difference here, but I still respect you. And we need those unifying things, and baseball can be great and has been great in the past, has been great in the era of the Depression, in wars, in the 60s, in the turbulence of Vietnam, in the wake of Watergate, in the post 9/11, COVID, recession, dangling chads of 2000, January 6th, whatever you want to point to that showed great division and hard points of our country, baseball has been a great unifier. And it needs to stay that way. And with that in mind, baseball, you have that job to be that role in our country. And do you know what that means? That means you cannot afford a work stoppage. We've all been there, logging in early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets easier and faster than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with killer last-minute deals. And if you're tired of just endless scrolling trying to get the best deal, what they have Gametime's Zone Pick, have you get the best seats for your section for you. And like they have with baseball games, they have a panoramic seat view so you can make sure there's no surprises when you get to the show. With Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay, no hidden fees. And if you're worried about what happens next, well, guess what? The Gametime guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and more. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets, show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets at the lowest prices, they're guaranteed. If baseball is going to assume its role of being a critical common ground point for people of all political, religious, sexual, ideological stripes, something we can all agree on, over the next couple of years, I got news for you. There's no magic wand that's going to make everything peaceful. We're not all going to be singing Kumbaya anytime soon. It's not like it's going to happen. Like someone going to look up and say, hey, it's 2026 and everyone respects each other, everyone likes each other, and things are all right. No, I hope it doesn't get worse. But there's a possibility it could. And so we can't afford to lose any type of common ground that we could have that baseball can provide us. Baseball's popularity is growing. You're starting to see new fans. You're starting to see new methods of watching the games. And baseball can't drop the ball on that with a work stoppage. Now, look, I have a definite point of view about a potential work stoppage. And I keep hearing that it could cost the 2027 season. If that happens, I don't think they can lose one game. I don't think it could be off the air for one game. But if they're off the air for a season, what you've done? Then just forget building that stadium in Las Vegas, which, well, that's an episode of next week. I don't believe they're doing it. But that's a different topic altogether. But forget building a new stadium in Las Vegas. Start tearing down Yankee Stadium. Start tearing down Dodger Stadium. Build affordable housing there. Tear down Fenway Park. If they lose a season, that's it. That's it. It's gone. It's over. Baseball's done. Or Major League Baseball is done. Now, maybe baseball will become a fringe sport, kind of like the people who follow Premier League soccer in America. They, it's fun for them and everything, and people like me will start following. I'll be like, people who follow the leagues in Japan or in Hong Kong or wherever in Korea, and we'll keep following our love of the game there. But the fact of the matter is, Major League Baseball will be over. It'll be a fringe league because we have so many methods of entertainment that if you take it out of the queue, people will move on. This is in 1994 when cable TV was relatively in its infancy. The idea of ESPN broadcasting baseball game was only 4 years old in 1994. Not everyone had, that created a shadow over my face. Not everyone had cable TV back in 1994. Nobody had the internet unless you were working at MIT or Caltech. The methods of entertainment and the ways that these entertainment contents could be delivered to you was inconceivable back in 1994 when the big strike of 1994 wiped out the final third of the season in the World Series, and then the lockout of 1995 wiped out the beginning of the season of 1995. We can't afford it. We can't afford that. the methods of watching things are so different that the idea is, oh, we want to watch baseball? Okay, we're already watching another episode of Squid Game. Or we'll watch soccer. Or I'll watch a video of someone opening up and unboxing a box. That'll be the end of Locked On MLB, probably. Or certainly the sponsors we'll get won't be that great. And this is suicide. A lockout or a strike, either one would be suicide. Now, I've made it also clear that I don't think the problems with baseball right now are the owners versus the players. The problems with baseball right now, and the baseball economics, how things are set up, are owners versus owners. So locking out the players, you're locking out a party that really isn't part of this fight. This is big budget owners versus moderate budget owners. I don't think there's small budget owners. There's not a single owner who can't afford to put a winning product on the field. But it's basically saying like, hey, we can't afford to have the Cohens of the world and the Dodger groups of the world spending piles of money while everyone else is adhering to the rules of a luxury tax. That's really what this is about. It's not about the players. The players already gave in. They didn't have a luxury tax before. The owners won the last rounds by adding a luxury tax and putting penalties on for going over a threshold. They already won, but they didn't take into account an owner who wouldn't care. The owners of the Mets and the owners of the Dodgers, we don't care. We'll spend whatever we want. We'll pay. You know what? This is the price of doing business. And if you're the Pirates and the Marlins and the Rays and the A's who just want to collect the revenue sharing, which, by the way, wasn't there earlier either. You were trying to do that, and then you look and say, we can't deal with the Dodgers signing all these players and everything, or the Mets. We can't pull that off. Well, how's that the players' fault? But either way, the fact of the matter is this. We need baseball to help heal this country. Everyone's making lots of money. The owners are making piles of money. They've never seen revenues like this before. Players are making money. They're making money like they've never seen before. So, everyone needs to figure out how to make this work because baseball has a more important job now than ever. We can't afford to take away one of the few things that can help heal our population, at least give us little things to cling to help bring down the damn temperature of the discord in this country. And it's funny. I'm thinking about the fact that this century has been, well, it's been a dumpster fire. Let's be frank. It's been a real dumpster fire from the beginning. But the very first moments when the calendar page changed from 1999 to 2000 shows, well, frankly, we're capable of creating solutions when we know a crisis is on its way. And when we come back, I want to talk about why baseball needs to learn from the last moment of the previous century. All right, I know I'm going to get messages from some pedantic people who are going to say, you know, the 21st century actually started in 2001, not in 2000, blah, 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 knock it off. Let's operate from an incorrect point of view that the century began, or the new millennium and century began in 2000, because it was more cool when all the numbers turned over as opposed to 0 turning to 1. But the point is the year 2000. Some of you may not be old enough to remember it, which scares me. Y2K was something that was freaking the hell out of all of us. Our computers were set up in the 50s or 60s, whenever they were set up, that the year was only the last two digits of the year. So if it was say it was 1959, the year was set to 59 because of memory on the computers and everything like that. And someone figured out that when they turned the year over from 1999 to 2000, that could create a gigantic glitch in many computers, who would then say, nope, there's a mistake, we're in year zero. It would go as if it was the year 1900. And there was a lot of people worried. What was this due to the electronic banking? What was that happen to ATMs? What was it going to happen to air traffic control? What was going to happen to this? What was going to happen to that? And then, in December 31st, 1999, I was in New York City with my friends. I was at a party at Amy Larimer's house. Amy was a dear friend of mine. And the calendar and the clock turned from 99 to 2000. And there was no great crisis. And there were some people, and we call these people knuckleheads, who said, oh, it wasn't, see, it was a big hoax. It was nothing. It was nothing. No, it wasn't nothing. You know what happened? A lot of people saw that this could be a huge crisis and worked literally around the clock to fix it. They anticipated the disaster instead of waiting for the disaster to happen. A lesson we can learn this century, and a lesson that baseball can certainly learn. There is a Y2K, and the Y2K is the end of the collective bargaining agreement, which is at the end of, well, it's basically after the 2026 season. I believe it's when I think it's when 2027 turns around, but either way, it's after 2026. That's why they say the 2027 season is in danger. We know what Y2K is. We know when things can get bad. We know that baseball has revenue up the yin-yang, and they cannot afford to shut down because it will be the destruction of the sport, and it has a more important purpose because the country needs these things. An everyday event that people, no matter where you are in the political spectrum or the social spectrum or the sexual spectrum or the religious spectrum or whatever spectrum you want to spectrum, that you have something that for every day from the end of March to the end of October, you could have a common ground, and you're going to end that over basically dispute with two or three people. You know when you have to fix it. It has to be fixed after the 2026 season, when the Dodgers had finished winning their third straight World Series title. So get to work on it now. Don't do your homework on the bus. Don't wait for the last minute. Don't file your taxes on April 14th. If you know when this is going to happen, get to work on it. This has happened before. In 2002, the collective bargaining agreement was about to expire. There was a possibility of a strike, and they knew what a disaster it would be because many of the same owners there were the ones who lived through the 94 strike and the 95 lockout. So they came up with a collective bargaining agreement without a work stoppage. You have to do that now. There's too much money, too many other entertainment options. Back in 2002, we didn't have Netflix, we didn't have Amazon. We barely had YouTube. YouTube was like a few cat videos. We wouldn't have this. You know baseball can't survive a work stoppage of even a day. And you know baseball is serving a purpose greater than just baseball right now. And you know you're making Scrooge McDuck kind of money right now. So get to work now. If you are an owner, or if you're a player rep or whatever, stop watching this video and get to work on it right now. America is worth fighting for. Whether you're conservative, liberal, whatever. America's at its best when we all have different points of view, different perspectives that we can argue about, we can debate about, but in the end look at each other and say, but we want the same thing, which is a strong country where people of all different stripes and beliefs can have the freedom to live the way they want, think the way they want, pray the way they want, love who they want, worship what they want, and we all get together and hate the Astros. That's worth fighting for. That's worth celebrating. I don't want everyone agreeing with me on everything. It makes the comment sections boring. And I like to be able to say, hey, I don't agree with this person on this, that, or the other thing, but I like going to a ball game with them because we have that in common. You're going to destroy that because you don't want to stand up to Cohen, which is essentially what this is about, and you have literally 2 years to figure this out? You probably could figure it out in an hour if you were really honest, but get to work on it now. Kill all this nonsense talk now. So we can just focus, saying for the next bunch of years, as we're trying to get through these years, trying to figure out how to make it work, trying to figure out how we could turn down the temperature, if not of the warming planet, sorry, I threw an opinion there, but at least of our country. It's the 4th of July. And let's face it, the 4th of July in 1776, things weren't going so great then either. We've had some rough moments in our country. We've had some terrible moments in our country. And moments in our country that are actually worse than now. Lest we forget, one of the things that helped really spread baseball throughout the nation was during the Civil War. And people from different regions of the country were thrown together, and some of them learned this crazy new game called baseball that spread like crazy after the Civil War. We were at war then. And baseball became a common ground between the North and the South. We were at war. We were in a depression. We had a pandemic. And each time, baseball helped get us out. Baseball is going to help get us out of this and get to a point where we can start to look at each other and say, I don't agree with you on A, B, or C, but we both like baseball, so how bad can they be? That's your responsibility, baseball. And your reward is to make more and more money and become popular like you've never been before. There's no sport that's ever been created that's better on the internet, because it's daily content, that's better for conversations. It's easy to look at a box score, see who did what. Easier to have debates. The stats are very clear to understand. Easier to have memories of. If you play Little League, you get your at-bats. Whether you're the best player or the worst, you get your time at bat. That doesn't happen in soccer. That doesn't happen in basketball. You can always pass it to the best player. So everyone can relate to baseball. Everyone can talk about baseball. And baseball is always on. And baseball is a uniter. Baseball can unite the states of America and can do so for a long time. Get to work. You have a job to do. And I have a podcast to run, and if there's no baseball, what the hell am I going to talk about? So thank you for making Locked On MLB your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Talking about the United States of America, something worth saving, something worth fighting for, and something to watch baseball thinking about. There's a reason why we do the national anthem at the front of the game. And I'm glad that we do. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. I hope this episode didn't anger anybody. You can call me Sully.